go through last time, our last class's stuff dealt with looking at growth and decay. So when you have exponential growth, that means that growth is going to happen on top of growth throughout every iteration of the process. So, and it's sort of like something like you've probably seen or heard news stories about people who go through and either take out a loan and or have credit card debt that they can't get out of. And the reason that that happens is the banks and stuff are very, we'll say, they're smart at times because they'll go through, some of the banks are, because their goal is to make a lot of money. So what they end up doing is charging you more in interest than is normal. And furthermore, they're going to charge you an amount such that the amount you're contributing is less than what the rate of increase is. So let's say you go through and you've got an interest on a credit card, normally it's about 17 or 18%. So let's say you're somewhere between, 17 and 20%. You're going through and you take out a credit card, right? You charge $1,000 on that credit. We'll say it's even $100 on a credit card. Now, to pay all of it off right away, you mail them a check for $100 and be done. Or you can pay the minimum payment, which let's say would be $10. If the interest rate is $10, if the minimum payment is $10 and the interest rate is 17%, you borrowed $100, what's the problem with that long term? The interest rate after the first month is 17%. You're making a payment of $10, so you're not paying the whole thing off. What's that? Think about what he just said. Your balance at the end, if you make the minimum payment, is still increasing by how much? $7. Because if you borrowed $100 and you pay interest on it, what's $100 with 17% interest on it? $170. If you don't know that, you're in the wrong room. Then you go through and you make your payment on that. And you pay the minimum payment, which is $10. How much do you owe at the end of the month? $107. And then the next month comes, and you get charged 17% interest on $107. So your amount that you're contributing towards paying off the debt is less than the amount that the debt is increasing by each month. So is it possible for you to be paying off credit card debt forever? And the answer is yes, unless you pay it off right away. That's why there's a big push nationally now to have, there's a big push nationally to have financial literacy courses on there. There's actually a thing, and it was very, we'll say unfortunate to put it mildly. There is a group called payday lenders, which means that you take out a loan, and the amount that you're giving is based on what the anticipated payday is. So let's say your car breaks down on Monday. You don't have enough money to pay it off. You make $500 a week. You can go to a payday lender and they'll say, all right, well, when it comes time, it's on a Monday, you get paid on Thursday or Friday. When it comes to Friday, you're going to have to owe us your paycheck, which would be $500, plus interest on it, which maybe would be 40 or 50 bucks more, and fees. What's the problem with that? Well, over time, they charge an interest rate that is, if you annualize it out, would be around 2,100%. An interest rate of 2,100% because of all the fees, etc., that they go through and charge. And what ended up happening was they would do it on military bases. So they would prey on servicemen and women. Because those families, especially if you have a relative or a parent who's in the service, if you go away and you're serving, obviously that creates a lot of financial strain because most likely there's one person left at home to take care of children and household expenses, etc., that come up. That person most likely has to work because we don't pay our servicemen that great. And so if the car breaks down, you're essentially relying on one income. They need the money. And so they would go through and say, hey, we'll get this done. And they didn't really express what their fees were, to the point where they outlawed, and this was one thing that was interesting, they outlawed it being done by American companies to go through and do these sort of payday lending things because the interest rate was so insane. And people that were in the service, like going off to Iraq and Afghanistan and places like that, would come back and have to declare bankruptcy. And so what they ended up doing was they said, all right, we're outlawing this practice. Well, then the banks, which are always going to find a way around the rules, the banks found this ingenious thing, which said, does anybody know where you could be standing in the middle of America and be in a foreign country? Anybody know where that? It happens all over the place. No? Canada? No. Canada isn't in the United States. No. You're going through, if you're standing, if you're taking, who knows, who has a parent or relative who's ever been to the Seneca Indian Reservation or the gambling center?
Oh, I think
Those are all independent, sovereign nations. That means that they're countries within a country, so to speak. So the bank said, all right, you're not going to let us do business here. We're going to open up a mailbox on the Seneca Indian Reservation and say, all right, we're now an independent Seneca Indian Reservation. We're on the Indian Reservation. We're not subject to your laws. And by the way, we're going to go up to Fort Drum or West Point and prey on those kids that are coming out and give them payday loans. So that's how they get around. But the reason is this compounded interest, and it's something that's very, very important for you to understand. Our stuff today works off of an understanding of that. Now, we should know exponential growth and exponential decay. Our models for growth, just in case you remember, it's y is equal to a, and then 1 plus or minus the r raised to the t power. That's the difference between growth and decay. One has a growth of r, one has a decay of r, so the growth is plus, and that's minus. Last year, the total revenue for a home style, a national restaurant chain, increased by 5.25% over the previous year. If this trend were to continue, which expression would they use to approximate their monthly percent increase in revenue? Now, here's the problem that we have. Y is going to be equal to, and in this case, we don't know what the initial amount is. It's going to be A, and it's going to be 1. Now, is this an increase or decrease? Increase. So it's going to be 1 plus, and I'm going to take the drastic step of saying we know that 0.0525 raised to the t power. What is t going to be in this case? Well, I think we make sure, I don't know if I said it when we did in this first class, but I did for the others. Something on our units doesn't match up. Take a look, and hands up please if you can read what's there and tell me what about our units currently does not match up. Yeah. Our interest is given per year, and we're looking for the monthly percent increase. This represents the yearly. So what we need you to go through and see is this. What we're going to do is we're going to split this up to figure out what the monthly rate is going to be. So what we would have to do in order to figure this out is we would take the 1.0525, and now I need to go through and recognize that this is the yearly amount. What can I go through and do to make this a monthly amount? Yeah. Careful. With exponential growth, you don't divide by 12, but we're going to do you know, Michael? Raise that to the 1/12th power. Now, from here, keep in mind, after our model is per year, so we need to sort of undo that and say after 1 year, it's going to be 12 months. All I'm doing now is converting it from monthly to what we've got. So what I'd say is this. I can't remember which choice. We know for sure it's not going to be 1 or 2. If I remember correctly, it's going to become choice 3. Go into your calculators, though, together, just so we're clear. Let's evaluate out what this growth factor is going to be per month. So go in right now, please. And type that in, and let's make sure that this matches up. Class. So did this match up to what we said previously? Let's see. So does that amount match what our base should be? Yeah. And looking at it, what would your growth rate per month be? What would the growth rate per month be? Hands up, please, if you can tell me what the growth rate per month is. You know what it is per year. What's the growth rate per month going to be? We talked about this previously. What's the growth rate per month going to be, Chloe? Yeah, about 0.4%, because when you go here, this 1 means it's growth, 1 plus the rate. So we subtract 1 from that. So if we could go through, take 1 away from that, and then to get it as a percent, you go through and multiply it by 100. So minus 1 times 100, that gives you what the percent would be. So it's about 0.427%. So I believe that the answer for this should. Now, by the way, what would reduce out in this? Oh, wait a second. Hang on just a second. I think since we're converting it, I think this just needs to be, I miswrote that. I think this here just needs to be an M, because we're taking 1/12 and doing a conversion. I think the answer to this is number 3. I'll go through and double check. I believe that it's 3 and not 4. Because again, you're converting from months into years. Okay? Suppose you have this amount that you want to go through and deposit in a bank. You plan to save the money without making any more deposits or withdrawals. Some banks offer 4% interest, but they vary in how they compound the interest. Bank 1 compounds the interest annually, which means you get 4% interest once a year. Bank 2 compounds it semi-annually. That means you get half your interest awarded every 6 months. So you get 2% interest twice a year to get 4% total. The next one up compounds the interest quarterly. That means you get a fourth of your interest, which is 1%, but you get it every 3 months, and so on. We're going to go through now and run these trials. And I don't know if the spacing on mine got screwed up, or it's fine on yours, it's only screwed up on mine. Terrific. Now, looking at what we have, this is going to give you the number of times per month. We're going to figure out the balance after 1 year, the balance after 2 years. So let's start off. The first one is pretty simple. You have 10,000 times 1.04 to the first power. So go through right now, please, and do that out. Go into your calc. And by the way, let's do this. This might make things, well, no, it won't. Go in right now, type that in, and let's evaluate out what this is. Who is this? Is that you, Jason? Don't become a criminal. I have a suspicion you wouldn't be too good. Go in right now, please, to a document. Let's go and get a new calculator going and type in that first expression. We're going to have to pick up the pace. We've got to go a little quicker. So go in right now, please, to your calculator. Go in, please, and you're going to input, what was it, 10,000 times 1.04. No, go in, Jason, calculator screen.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Get back to home. So when you do this out, we can burn through all of these pretty quickly. We got 10,000 times 1.04 raised to the first power. So we would have.
The one thing to power 1 is 1.
Yep, no, is whatever the base is. Do this right now. Please go up and hit enter on this, because I need you to make sure. Sometimes there'll be a decimal hidden back there. If there's not, that's fine. So we know the balance after 1 year would be 10,400. Now let's figure out the balance after 2 years if the interest is compounded once yearly. What would I need to do to figure out what the interest would be if it's compounded once yearly? Oh, and I've left it in there for 2 years. Hands up, please, if you can tell me what that would, how we get it.
You replace the 1 and add the exponent as a 2.
This is growth. So you tell me what's the balance after 2 years going to be.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
All right. So go back up, hit enter on it to make sure that there's no hidden decimals. Go up, select the value up above, and hit enter. And were there any decimals after it? Yes or no? No? All right, so $10,816. Now, that's because you're earning interest on money that you got from interest before. So you're earning interest on interest. Now we're going to go through and do the second one, which is we're going to give ourselves 2% interest done twice a year. So as we go through, what do we get if we do that one out? Go into your calculators right now, and everybody type that in. We've got 1,000 times half the interest done twice, which would give you an amount of what? Alexa, what do you say? You can tell me what this value comes out to be and give it as money, which means if there's cents, you've got to throw the cents on there. What do you say, Mark? 10,404. Now, to figure out how much would be there after 2 years, we have to ask ourselves how many iterations, well, let's ask this. What is our interest rate going to be if it's done twice a year? 4% yearly. How much would that be if we broke it up and did it twice a year? Jim? No, I pay attention to the question. What is the interest rate if I'm doing 4% interest twice a year? Who can tell me, please, what's the interest rate going to be if I do 4%, but do that twice, or split it up so it's twice a year? Yeah, 2% each time. Now, we need to figure out what it's going to be after 2 years. So what expression would I go through and write out to show what that's going to be? We got one person. Sarah?
It would be 10,000 times 1.02.
So go in right now and evaluate that guy out, please. Go in right now, please, and let's evaluate that out. Who can tell me, please, what we would have after after 2 years, which would be 4 iterations of it? Go ahead. And how much? 32? Okay. Make sure you go back and double check, because does it truncate the answer? Does it not show the cents, or does it? I don't know. It does? Okay. Now, let's ask ourselves this. We're earning 4% interest each year, but now we're going to apply the interest quarterly. So, what would that expression look like to figure out what our balance is after 1 year? If I'm taking 4% interest done quarterly, what would that look like? We've got 3 people. Jason?
To the power of 4 because there are 4 quarters in a year.
1 to the power of 4.
Oh, yes. 10,000 times 1.0.
A fourth of it raised to the 4th power. Because you're giving 4% interest split out 1% each time. Who can tell me, please, what that's going to go through and yield? We got 1, 2 of us. 3 typers. Wonderful. Alyssa, what'd you get? How could I figure out how much it would be after 2 years? Hands up, please, if you can tell me. Yeah.
10,000.
Just 10,000. Because you were to take your start amount to figure out how much you'd have after 2 years.
Then you do 10,000 times the quantity of 1.01.
Good. Who can tell me, please, what that amount of money is going to give me? Alexa, what do you want to say?
828.
Did you say 57? Thank you. What about now if I'm doing it monthly? Now, this is where it's going to get awkward. What would the expression look like if I'm giving myself 1/12 of the interest 12 times a year? Hands up, please, if you can tell me what that would be.
1,000 times 1.0083.
There you go. And here's what I would do, because this is what, I don't know, I find this to be kind of funny, that we get so apprehensive to use the fraction. The calculator does it out. You can figure out an approximation to your growth rate, because it would be 4 divided by 12. And what's 4 divided by 12? A third, repeating, so it gets really awkward. So I'd say this would be 0.04 divided by 12. raised to the, what power? Did we say? 12 power, right? So go into your calculators right now and let's see what that's going to look like when we type it in. One zero 407. Did we do something wrong? No. 407 point what? What was the change on that one?
42.
42. And now let's go through and figure out what our balance would be if we left it in for 2 years. So everything's going to stay the same except what's going to change? The exponent. What's the new exponent going to be? So we've got 10,000 times 1 plus my rate, which is 0.04 over 12 raised to the 24th power. What amount would I have there?
10,831.
Now, to break it down so it's a little bit low level for you, I'm going to say this. Before computers came around, there were 2 banks opening up. Maddie's got a bank, and so does Jack. And they're fighting with each other for my money. Because they want to have me deposit my money with their bank so they can lend it out to other people. They can charge an interest rate on it. The interest rate's always greater than the amount that you keep and pay people in interest for keeping their money in the bank so they can lend it out. And they can make some money. So Maddie says, all right, instead of you just leaving it in here, I'm going to give you interest once a year. Now, Jack goes, and by the way, so Maddie's going to give me 4% interest once a year. So I'm doing the math out because I'm a genius. I go, all right, I have $10,400. Put my $10,000 in the bank. I come back $10,400. Now, Jack comes along and says, Maddie's bank is terrible. They're horrible. They only give you interest once a year. How many times are you going to give me interest? Twice a year. Fine. Guess which bank I'm going to? Jack's. Because I did the math out. Who's going to have more money then? Which one would I be doing better at? Jack's. Even by how much though? $4. Sure, man. I'll come over. Do I get a toaster? Sure. Okay. Now, Maddie, you can tell, look at her, she's pissed. I mean, she's livid. Talk about losing the house to the right way. Are you outraged right now that I'm not your customer anymore? She's going to sting with that pencil if I don't sharpen up here. Now, to get me back, Maddie, how many times are you going to give me interest? 4 times? See ya. Bye. I'm over here. How much more money am I going to make by going through and now being with Maddie, who's going to give me interest 4 times a year? Hands up, please, if you can tell me how much more money I'm going to have. I'm taking all my money out. What? $2.04, thank you. Now, you can tell Jack doesn't look angry at us. He's very vengeful right now. He's looking at this bank, he's going, I need to put them out of business. So how many times are you going to give me interest? Now, I'm over here. How much money did I move to make? Hands up, please, if you can tell me. How much money did I move to make? No? Now, you're starting to notice something. And to get me back, how many times would you give me interest? 24, how many times are you going to give me interest? How many times a year would you give me interest? She's giving me interest twice a month. How about you? Whoa. Peter, I'm sorry. Peter just came along and changed the game. Peter, how many times are you giving me interest? These two schmucks, they can't figure out what they're doing. 24 times? How many are you giving it to me to? 365. I'm over here. Who's got a better offer than 365 times a year? No one can make it better. What?
730.
All right, he's giving me 730. Fine. What, Tyler? 8,000? Now, the one thing that you should notice, though, By the way, at this point, your bank is out of business, and your customers are so outraged that you're only giving them interest for 12 times a year. So when you go through, what you've got to see is this. What's happening, though, to the amount that I'm moving for each time? It's decreasing. What you notice is, when you get to Tyler's iteration here of 8,000 and some change, it starts becoming negligibly small, meaning it's not noticeable, the amount that it's changing. So we say that that is giving interest compounded continuously. Okay? So there's a big difference, compounded with frequency. The more times you compound the interest, that's more money that I make. And continuously is the model that's accepted most. What?
So, but what if they give you an interest rate of like 4% every month, but one bank gives you like a 20% interest rate every year? Wouldn't that?
You'd have to go through and do the math out to figure out what the equilibrium points are.
Oh, so
You'd have to do the math, figure out what they are, and you can. You take 20%, apply it to see what you have at the end of their time frame, and so on. Now, take a look at what we have here. Use a formula from here's a formula for a balance after t years. It's going to be y is equal to p times 1 plus r over n raised to the nt power. N is the number of times it's done a year. P is the principal or starting amount. R is the rate, is a decimal, yada yada. You need to know this formula.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine? Are you offended? I found such a better bank than you two. Your business model is antiquated. Are you mad at me? Yes? Are you mad? Would you give me more interest coming back? Kyle says 8,000 times. Can you beat 8,000 times? You can't match his deals? The next thing you know, then you... What? Yeah, we're going to get rid of... And you'll notice, though it tends to be the worse the bank is financially, the higher interest rates that they offer. You all weren't around for, or at least aware, during the 2008 financial crisis. But what ended up happening was they had banks that flouted these rules and found all these ways around them and faked their numbers to the point where there was one bank that, think about it, if you're the bank, you're allowed legally to go through, and if you have $1,000 in your account, that's called the leveraging ratio. If you have $1,000 in deposits, you're allowed, good banks normally leverage themselves at 2 or 3 times, which means if Jack's bank has $1,000 in it, he's able to give out $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 to businesses and loans. That's the ratio. The leveraging ratio is 4 to 1 if he lends out $4,000. Means he's got $4,000 out for every $1,000 in deposit. And then he pays insurance to the government in case those 4 people don't pay their money. There was one bank, and I think it was Bear Stearns at the time, was leveraged at and being even like 7 or 8 to 1 is really, really risky. They were leveraged at 27 to 1. And it was in the middle of the housing crisis. And they had all of the money lent out to people in the form of mortgages. But the mortgages were given to people who couldn't pay them. Like if somebody, let's just generically suppose, if somebody's making $30,000 a year, they can't afford to live in a house that's $300,000 a year, but they gave that person a loan. So the bank, though, then ends up collapsing. And who's got to pay? Either the people lose their money, and there's chaos, and people literally would probably become armed and revolting. Or the other end of it is the government has to sort of assume the bad debt and make the customers whole, and that's what the whole financial crisis was in the fall of 2007, beginning of 2008. If you had banks, like Citibank and things like that, they were big banks, and like Wells Fargo, those are name-recognized banks that were collapsing, like national banks that were collapsing. We're talking when Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns closed. It wasn't just that they closed, they also laid off like 60 or 70,000 people in one day. And they were companies that had been around for like 100 years. Like imagine if Ford went bankrupt and just completely went out of business. Like that was, a catastrophic thing. Go through right now, please. Go through right now and do out number 1 on your own. Go through right now, make your substitutions, do number 1 on your own. Noah, what would your substitution in be?
Would be y equals 5,000 times the quantity 1 plus 0.06 over 4.
Raised to what power?
4 times 2.
Which is, what's the t value?
6.
Mm-hmm. Go into your calculators right now, please, and type that in. Nope. Careful, microphone. So now, when we do this out, the amount you would have would be, Maddie, how much would that be? Outstanding. That's terrific. So is it worth keeping your money in a bank? And this goes back, by the way, to basic finance. How do they incentivize people putting their money in a bank instead of keeping it under the mattress? What's the whole reason? Why would you put your money in a bank instead of leaving it under your mattress? Safer, and you earn interest. You earn money on it. Now, and they give you toasters. Only at Jack's Bank. Maddie's Bank didn't even offer me anything. Thank you for the toaster, by the way, Jack. The bank's outstanding. But the other end of it is this. Now that the bank has the money, when businesses need money and need $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to expand, where do they go to get money? Where do businesses go to get money? They go to their moms. They go to banks and get loans. So the whole commercial banking system lets our economy be what it is. And it deals with, those sort of questions. Go through right now, please. Go through right now and do out number 2. Now, just going to round up. No. Yeah. Over. So, when you do this out, there's the amount you should get. Questions on that? Next one out. You can see what these are offering. Now, Payday Loan Company makes loans between $1,000 available to customers every 14 days. They're charged 30% interest with compounding. Okay? So every 14 days, they get charged 30% interest. So you can see how these balloon very, very quickly. In 2013, that person took out a $300 loan. Which one could be computed to figure out what she'd have to owe 1 year after if she didn't make payments? So I start off and say we've got y is equal to, now, this is going to be what's interesting every 14 days. Okay. So what we'll have to do is figure this out. And it was how much initially? 300? 300. And then it's going to be 1 point. What was the interest rate? Oh, 1.3, not 0.3, because that's your rate, 1.3. Now, this would be if it was done annually. This isn't done annually, but we can sort of force it to become annually. After 1 year, how could we figure out how many times interest has been applied to this amount? Think about that. After 1 year, how can you figure out how many times this person has paid interest on that loan? We got 1, 2 of you. This isn't hard. This is real world stuff. You need to know how much interest I'd be taking out. Jonathan, what would you do?
365 by 14.
Take the days in the year over that. So which one is that going to be? Choice what? 4. By the way, go in and type that into your calculator, and you can see this is what in particular, and I don't want to generalize it, this is what those banks were doing. to the servicemen in particular, and you can see how much money did the person borrow. Now, granted, you have to understand, they're all adults. We have to go through and take individual responsibility. But how much money is that if there's no payments made on it? And we act as though that's not. It's not uncommon for this to happen. Like that's, and unless you're paying the $300 off immediately, that's what happens. It balloons very, very quickly. And this would be the amount after 1 year, because you're paying 30% interest every time, and then you're paying interest on interest, which is why, again, you really, really need to be very, very financially literate. For this next piece, you see that this levels off with time. We were talking before about Tyler's Bank that offers it every minute. What we're going to say is this. The most frequently, it reaches a limit. That's what this goes to. The formula that we go through, the first number keeps completing. Here's the formula. We'll say this. There's a number E. We don't need to go into where it comes from in here. But it ends up being what that base is with an infinite number of compounds. You can go into your calculator. The number E right here that it's referencing is an irrational constant. And if you go into your calculator, you can find it. It's the number pi, which is approximately 3.14 and change. What I need you all to do right now is this. Go to your working screen on your calculators, please, and do this. Go in, and here's a pi button here. Go in, please, loves, and press that pi button. Now, go in and hit pi first. Go in and select pi and hit enter. So you can see it's 3.14 and change. It continues on forever. The next one that we're going to do is find the number E. There's two places that you can find it. If you need just an E, you go into pi and arrow over to where it says E and press enter. And you can see that's about 2.718 and change. There's another way to get E, which is to go through, please, and press this button here, which says E to the X, because most of the time, due to where it comes from, we would go through and apply E raised to some power. So type in E squared. Let's see what that comes out to be, which is the same as taking 3.14 and change the decimal approximate squaring that. Now, this is what's used when your interest is compounded continuously. Now, you need to know the formula that we listed out previously, where it was compounded with a frequency like monthly, which would be y equals p times 1 plus r over n raised to the nt power. Go back and circle that as well. Those are two formulas that you need to know. The reason why we say that, where I think I even have it still listed out. Draft. So this is your exam, what they were saying. They sent out a refresher, and I thought I had it in here, but they literally went out of their way to send out, oh, is this it here? Yep. Look at. You wonder why? Here we go. This is from New York State. What did they literally just tell us? A reminder. They sent out an email to every math teacher in the state, reminding them of topics that they haven't asked yet, but could be asked. What's one of them? A equals PERT. Did we just learn that? And then A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT power. Did you just learn that? Call it a hunch. It's probably going to be on one of your exams. Now, let's go through and do out some of the practice questions. Take a look at these. Now, this is all different types of growth. Taking a look at number 1, it says a bacterial culture of 10,000 is growing continuously at a rate of that amount per day. Find the culture at the end of 1 day. Now, the first thing that I would go through and do, find the population of the culture. Didn't we have, is this the same as yours or no? Oh, stupid. So this, yeah, you're not supposed to, because that's where that graph is supposed to go. It's supposed to be down here. The table below, so I'm missing a stupid table. Now, what we're going to, So you have that table, it's just on another page, right? It's on the top of the next page. So my spacing is screwed up. I'll fix it. I'll reprint out the notes. It says a bacterial culture of that amount is growing continuously at a rate of 16% a day. Find the population at the end of that amount. Now, when we do this out, understand this question. I don't see now, and this is what I'm talking. I'm going to say this, and I don't know of a better way, a better justification for what I'm going to go through and give you. And I apologize, because there's got to be a tighter way, and I don't see a way to explain it to you this way. This is not an exponential growth function, or this is an exponential growth function, but it's not a 1 plus r or 1 minus r function. What word does this have in here that's going to let us know what type of formula to use for this? That continuously. So if you want to really make an underline on it, I'll tell you this. 9 out of 10 times that this question is asked, it's going to reference banking. This is one of those times that it doesn't. So our formula is y equals p times e raised to the RT power. Now, in our case, when we apply the formula, we don't know the end amount. Y is going to be equal to, what is the p, which normally is a principal for banking, but in this case, our starting amount. What would the p value be in this case? 10,000. So 10,000 times e raised to the RT power. What is the rate? Hands up, please, if you can tell me. What's that? 1/6 times, in this case, how many cycles has it gone through? Normally it's t for years. In this case, it's in a yearly cycle. How many times has it gone through this growth cycle? Once. So times 1. Now go into your calculators, please. Compute this out. And I'll say this actually, playing it forward. I'll do this. Type this in, please. Yeah, okay, you're fine. Type that in. Hit enter. Now, how many bacteria would we have? 11,000. 11,735. Now, the calculator, unless it says to round otherwise, there's part of this that there's a little bit of a debate. The real world kicks in a little bit, especially as enriched students, you should see this. They're not going to tell you how to round necessarily every time. I'll give you a tighter answer when it comes time for the read. Most of the time, if it doesn't say to round, I'd say fill in everything. Fill in everything. But it says how many, find the population in the culture. So I count up all the bacteria that are there. How many bacteria would I have? Would I have that many, 0.13? No. How many would I have? Just that many. How many would I have after 5 days? Well, it's going to be y is equal to 10,000 times e raised to the what power? So now we're going to approximate what that comes out to be. And when we do that, now this would round down. In all honesty, this is where there's that awkwardness. Because it hasn't, even if it did round up, you'd say, well, at that time, they haven't actually reached that many. We're just rounding it up to that many. So it'll be 22,255. Is that right? Okay. Now, what I want you to do right now, do you have a question?
Yeah.
What?
How does speed work? Like, how does it know like what?
Well, I'll send it out to you in a remind before the class is over. How's that? Okay. Do this right now. Do out number 2, please. On your own, go through and do out number 2. And actually, let's even do this. Go through right now and do number 2. I'm going to send it out as a quick poll that you can go through and answer. You just hit, if it comes up during your computation, you can hit escape. And then come back to it. It'll be on the home screen.
Oh.
Do we need any,
I don't get what
We still have two people who haven't put in an answer. I'm outraged with What's that? You can only do it the second one. Oh, you can't? The second one. Now, I'm going to tell you all this while we're waiting for those last ones to come in. Number one, you're over the break. You have a couple things to do. Did I tell you about your other project or no? There was one that got put out through your Google Classroom. Now, not only, by the way, let's see how close we are. Wow. Here's what, this was terrible. Take a look at what's there. This is saying, find the amount of, stop talking. It says, find the amount of interest earned after 5 years. So, you go through, you've got 2,500 times e raised to the 0.012 times 5. Now, when you compute that out, hands up please if you can tell me what amount of money that is. Hands up when you can tell me the amount of money that is. Yes? And how much? 59 cents? Now, it's asking you find the amount of interest earned, which means I would take this amount and subtract the 2,500 from it, which means you would get $154.59. So it looks like we had 154.59. Those 7 got it right. I'm not sure what was happening with these other ones, but you need to make sure. It looks like 10 of you only computed out part of it, not the whole amount. Now, we'll tell you all this. This was posted to you through Google Classroom, but I want you to remember all of the good work that you did previously on our last project. And now, as you can see, the project directions have changed slightly. Take all of the good that you've done previously, that quantity of goodness, and square that. And that's what your job is going to be for over Thanksgiving. Now, I thought that you still need, over Christmas break, the holiday. Now, The other part is, so the same directions are there. This got sent out to people previously. There were some very good write-ups. This one, for some reason, always opens this, but whoever did the pie on there was outstanding. We'll say this, it's probably better. These are like actual good things that people did. You might want to, like, I can't, and I don't know who they are because I had, they literally, I just went through and took them, emptied them out, and read what they were. There should be nothing to attribute to you on the paper. There was everything from helping a grandmother that had Parkinson's make mashed potatoes because she couldn't hold the blender anymore, to there was somebody that wrote about how, like, I guess a parent had somehow, if I remember right, it was like a, and I think I'm sorry because there's 100 and how many? 112 that I went through and read. There was one where there was like, I think it was a dad had done something at like a construction site but had been injured somehow, and they stepped up to help them during it. Those are little things that you can do that have a really, really big lasting impact. Like if you sit there and do nothing, that to me is just, in all honesty, it's just, you're better than that. So all of those things are significant. Sometimes they're more significant than others. Make sure, please, that when we're giving a write-up, we use, like, the letter I isn't lowercase ever. Don't put an LOL in your write-up, which is what someone did. We might want to write like you're giving me an actual paper. We're not trying to grade for grammar, but if it's terrible, we might. There's three things that you need to have. You need to understand, by the way, the difference between the different types of growth that we're talking about. If it's compounded growth, that's going to be these. That's going to be these formulas, and I love how you're packed up because you don't even know what's happening yet. If that's what we get if it's compounded, that's when it's talking about compounded. If it's just referencing growth or decay, that's going to be they're two very, very different things. And if you don't know the difference of them, you're not at the spots that you need to be. Another thing that's going to happen is, hopefully maybe even by the end of the day today, I can't remember when I activated it to go out, but you'll have a Math Excel assignment for over the break. And understand, please, as we do these out, it's the expectation that, especially for enriched kids, you all need to understand this. And I sent it out as a note, I think to parents, but hopefully to you all as well. When it comes time for us for course recommendations, my cut line was at or around an 87. It tends to be the generic case, and that's not specific to anyone. That's a generalization. The 87 kids in 87 and above tend to do best in enriched. 87s and below tend to excel and read. There's always kids who score an 80 and would excel and turn things on when they get to pre-calc enriched. And there's kids who score 90s who don't turn it on and don't take. So it's about how much work you're willing to do. It's up to you at the end. The other end is this. I strongly encourage every one of you, especially those of you looking to build as robust of a academic profile as you can going into college, particularly those of you going into biomed fields, take AP Stats and pre-calc next year. Okay? Or those of you, I want you to let you know AP Stats is always an option for you, and it sort of gets left on the back burner. Same thing with Comp Sci. I would advise you all to leave here with taking at least one out of those two. It makes you look like a really, really good candidate. The statistics that we'll be working on give you a good intro into AP Stats. You can always go through and say to your counselor, yeah, you know what, I didn't know about that AP Stats, but after we did all this work with statistics in May, we can do it. So I advise you all to go through and do that. Make sure. And you'll have a Math Excel assignment waiting for you through Google Classroom. In addition to, so over the break, you've got probably 3 things to do. Over the break, you've got, number 1, get your project, do something, I don't mean good, I mean do something good, and then what do you have to do with that amount of goodness? Square it, so it's going to get big quick. The other thing that you need to go through and do is there'll be a Math Excel waiting for you. It's not designed to take, let's say, over an hour. The other thing is, you guys have assessment 28 that you picked up last time. Here's assessment 29 as well. You need to know how to answer those questions. How many is it? If it's 6, we're good. If not, let me know. 6? So, you got a lot. Oh, one thing before you go, and sorry, I keep forgetting to tell you this. I don't know if I did before. You all in here, and the reason that we work you like dogs, you all in here, if you score above an 83 on the reach, anything above an 83 and up, pre-calculus next year for you will be an option to be a dual credit class, meaning you earn 4 college credits. If you get an 82, you're not eligible, and 83 is. So that's our minimum cutoff point. But that's why every one of you can easily get the 83. Yes. Have a great break, kids. We'll miss you terribly. For remind? Yep, hang on one sec. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go through. We'll look up together right now how we can get you to sign up. All right? What do you have?